Money doesn't just disappear. Every transaction leaves a trail. Every movement is recorded. Every transfer has a reason. At least, that's what we're told. But what if I told you about a case where a massive amount of money moved overnight and no clear explanation was ever given, no public answers, no detailed breakdown, just a simple confirmation that it happened? This isn't a plot from a movie. It's one of the most puzzling financial events ever recorded. This is an unanswered finance file. The day before everything changed looked completely normal. Markets opened just as they always did. Banks were operating without any issue. No warnings were issued by financial authorities. The global financial systems showed no signs of stress or impending crisis. No emergency meetings were reported in the news. To the public, and even to most insiders, everything appeared perfectly stable, just another routine day in the world of finance. Then the night came, and under the cover of darkness, something extraordinary began to unfold. While the world slept, the gears of the financial machine started turning in a way no one expected. It was the calm before a silent storm, a day so ordinary it made the events that followed even more mysterious. During the quiet overnight hours, while cities were dark and trading floors were empty, large sums of money began to move across accounts. We're not talking about a slow, methodical transfer or a series of small, insignificant amounts. This was a massive, coordinated movement of capital, happening at a speed and scale that immediately caught the attention of automated monitoring systems. By the next morning, as analysts sat down at their desks, they noticed something was deeply unusual. The money was gone from where it was expected to be. It hadn't been stolen in a traditional sense, but it had been relocated, vanishing from certain accounts and reappearing in others, all without a clear public trigger. Officials eventually confirmed the movement had indeed occurred, but they did not release the full details, leaving a gaping hole where an explanation should have been. Once this massive, unexplained movement was identified, the questions started flying. Was this a planned operation? Was it a routine rebalancing that just happened to be unusually large? Or was it an emergency response to a crisis the public knew nothing about? The official statements that followed were brief and very carefully worded. The transfers were consistently described as authorized, a term that confirms they weren't the result of a hack or error, but authorization alone didn't explain the sheer urgency or the bizarre overnight timing. Why move so much, so fast, and so quietly? The deliberate lack of transparency from official sources only fueled the fire of curiosity. Instead of calming speculation, the silence made everyone wonder what was really going on behind the scenes. In the aftermath, financial experts and investigative journalists scrambled to make sense of it all. They pored over every piece of publicly available data they could find. They examined transaction records, looking for patterns or clues. They analyzed market reactions, searching for any sign that traders knew something was happening. They dissected every word of the official statements, hoping to find a hidden meaning. But their search came up empty. Nothing pointed to a clear reason. There was no major corporate announcement, no government policy change, and no geopolitical event that happened right before the movement. And perhaps most strangely, there was no clear explanation afterward. The global financial system just continued operating normally, as if nothing unusual had happened at all. But the question remained, hanging in the air: where did the money go, and why? Once the story of the overnight movement broke into the public domain, speculation ran wild. Online forums and financial news columns were filled with theories. Some people assumed it had to be a routine, albeit massive, liquidity operation between central banks, something complex but ultimately boring. Others believed it was a secret, precautionary move to prevent a looming financial collapse that was narrowly averted behind closed doors. A few even whispered about more shadowy reasons involving powerful, unnamed players, but without any detailed information from the institutions involved. Every explanation remained just that: a theory, an educated guess, incomplete. Over time, with no new information coming to light, the story slowly faded from the headlines. No follow-up report was ever released to the public. No full explanation was ever provided, leaving the event shrouded in mystery. So why does this still matter years later? Because financial systems are built on one fundamental principle: trust. We trust that our money is where the records say it is. We trust in the transparency of the system. We trust that movements of money are logged, tracked, and have a logical explanation. When a large-scale movement happens without any clarity, it chips away at that foundation of trust. It leaves behind a lingering sense of uncertainty. It proves that things can happen behind the curtain that we may never understand. Even years later, this event is still referenced in financial circles, not for what is known about it, but for what was never clarified. It serves as a stark reminder that we don't always get the full picture, and that some questions in the world of finance are destined to remain unanswered. The money moved, that much is confirmed. It was an authorized, intentional transfer on an enormous scale. But the reason for its movement, the extreme urgency behind it, and the full story of who was involved, all of it remains unanswered. This wasn't a story about a loss or a gain in the market. It was a story about silence, and that official, deafening silence is what turned this strange financial event into a true unanswered finance file. It's a puzzle with missing pieces, and the people who have them aren't talking. Some financial questions can be solved with numbers and spreadsheets. Others remain open simply because the explanation never comes. This was one of them. Thanks for watching. If you find these kinds of financial mysteries as fascinating as I do, make sure to subscribe for more.